All right. So today, I'm going to try to give you a good overview of how investors think. I think this is one of the big edges wholesalers can have is if they have invested in real estate personally, or they can think like an investor, because all of the properties that you're going to be flipping the contracts to investors. And the better you can understand what they're wanting, the better you can find what they're wanting, and the easier it is for you to get good deals. So I'm just going to go through a couple main points, but the biggest thing you have to think about is investors are wanting to make money, right? So they don't just want to acquire anything. They want to acquire something that's going to be good. And part of it is understanding what would be good for them. What are the things they are looking for? And in all honesty, if you find great properties, I will take them. I will be happy to take them. If we can find great properties and I have too many deals going on at the same time, or it's not a great deal, but a good deal, that's what we might wholesale. So the two big ways you find the things that investors are wanting is in equity and in cash flow. Those are the ways investors make money in real estate. So equity, what is equity? Equity is the value that they own in that asset. So if they have a home, they have no mortgage, they own it completely outright, and it's $100,000, it's worth $100,000, they have $100,000 of equity. If they have a home and they have a mortgage for $80,000 and it's valued at $100,000, they have $20,000 of equity. Does that make sense? So equity is one of the things that they will consider, and equity really, we'll get into further strategies and how investors think later, but equity is one of the fastest ways to grow value in real estate. Rents help. That's kind of like residual money, but generally people don't get really wealthy off of rents. They get really wealthy off of equity growth. So equity growth. How do investors help gain equity in these kinds of transactions? There's two ways. All right. The first is in the acquisition. They're looking for good deals, things that are under market value. And so as a wholesaler, this is what you are looking for. You're looking for good deals, things that investors would want at the end, and finding a way to get it at a discount rate on the front end. What that will do is, one, it will make your price for finding the deal justified, but then two, it will incentivize the investor, hey, there's some cushion in the process that you're going to do. So we're going to talk a little bit about the process as well here in a second. The other way, though, that you can get equity in these deals is by finding homes that have value kind of hidden or built in. And so what this could look like is a really big home, but it doesn't have a lot of bedrooms or bathrooms. But if you look at the layout, it could easily have a bedroom added or another bathroom added. Maybe it has a detached garage that could really easily be attached. There's a lot of different ways that you can kind of add in some equity in the narrative or the story when you sell this to an investor. But those are ways that you can add equity in this process, right? And so the second really big thing that we'll talk about is cash flow. Investors like cash flow. So we'll talk about two types of investors in this. One is just a flipper, somebody who flips houses. The second is what's called a BRRRR investor, or sometimes I'll call it a buy and hold investor, buy, flip, and hold investor. But cash flow is really important for that second type. The second type of investor that you might be selling to will flip a home, they'll put a renter in it, and they'll get a cash out refinance, and they'll just keep collecting rent. And so the rents in that area are really important. You can look and see what the house will be valued at. If you look at the types of repairs you need to put into it, you can see what it would be valued at, and then you can see what the rents go for in that area for that type of house. When you know that, you can know if it would be a good cash flowing property or not. It's very easy to find out what the mortgage rates would be, taxes, insurance. You could plug that in, find that number, and then you could look at the comparable rents for that home in the area. And so personally for me, I really like to find homes, if it's a home, something that will rent, and after all of my expenses, including my property management, I'm making $350 plus on rental incomes. If I can make that per home, I'm pretty happy. It's not very hard to find that. A couple of my properties are renting for 500 plus in net cash flow. Sometimes that takes a little bit for rents to raise, but either way, I think 350 is a healthy, good number investors would be happy about. So, what is an ideal home? Let's talk about that, because investors will not necessarily be buying all types of homes. There's certain homes that they would be very excited about, some homes they would not be very excited about. Some of it has to do with the area, and we'll go into that in another video. But some of the most attractive homes are homes that are kind of like starter family homes. They're not too small, and they have the right amount of bedrooms and bathrooms. This is important because that has the biggest market for resale. And this is important because real estate takes some time to sell. If you have a really unique home, it might sit on the market for a long time before it sells. And so if you need to get the money out or you want to sell it quickly, you might not have that option. Whereas if you have a single family home and it has the right kind of makeup that a lot of people are looking for, it will be much easier to sell. And that's why there are certain types of homes that are much more attractive to real estate investors. Simultaneously, even for rent, if they're looking to rent the property, if they're doing the BRRRR method that we'll talk about, they are probably looking for a home that's in a rental area that would rent really well, and it would be the makeup of a good rental property as well. So I'll give you an extreme example of a bad property, an extreme example of a good property, right? So let's say there is a mobile home and it is 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom. Would that be a good property? Probably not. Could it rent? Yeah, it could probably rent, but mobile homes will be hard for them to sell in general. They won't be as attractive as a home. And then 2, it's got 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom. It's very small. And so for people who are wanting to buy a home, maybe it's a young family, it just doesn't really fit an ideal category. Now, the other extreme, something that might sit on the market for a long time, is a mansion that's like 6,000 square feet, 5 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms. Well, for most people, that's way more bedrooms and bathrooms than they would need. And square foot wise, that's pretty big. So you're going to pay a lot in taxes. When the roof needs to get redone, it's going to cost a lot more. There's just a lot more that can go wrong with a big house. And so you're already priced out of those first-time home buyers, sometimes even middle-class America entirely. And so your market to resell that house is very small. Now, an ideal home, generally, and this is my target, is a home that's about 1,200 square feet to 1,500 square feet in general. There's a little bit of wiggle room on either side there. And in general, 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. And again, there's some wiggle room there if it's got 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms or 3 bedrooms and 1.5 bathrooms. Still good. The properties that are not usually good are 2 bedrooms, 1 baths, 1 bedrooms, 1 baths. Now, there is opportunity for equity. We talked about equity earlier and finding equity in good homes. And the more you can think about investing as an investor, the better you'll be able to find those equity opportunities. And so one of those that I do is I will look for homes that are a decent size, but for some reason have a lower amount of bedrooms or bathrooms than the space would normally require. So let's say you find a home that's 1,800 square feet, but it's only 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. My initial thought is, I'm going to rehab this anyway. I could probably add a bedroom and maybe even a bathroom at that point. And so at that point, I would look at the layout of the house as best as I could to see if I could add a bedroom or a bathroom or both in that. And that is a very easy way to significantly increase the equity value of your position in that investment property. So you would buy it as a 2-1, which wouldn't sell for as much. But then when you do the rehab and you add in the bedrooms and bathrooms and you do the whole rehab, suddenly it will be worth a lot more simply because you added bedrooms and bathrooms. And that adds value to the home. And so you could come out pretty far ahead on the equity just by adding a couple simple things because of the space that it allows. So, like I said, that is kind of the ideal types of homes that they're looking for as investors, because it'll let them offload it really quickly. There's one other category that is attractive to investors, but it's a different type of investor. And so we'll talk about this, the investor who really wants just cash flow. Now, cash flow is great, but it's not as good as equity growth. Equity growth is what makes people really wealthy in real estate. Cash flow sustains them. It pays for their living, but it will almost never make them really, really wealthy. But the equity growth is really where a lot of people are making most of their money. So cash flowers are usually multi-family properties. So we have these terms duplex, triplex. It's different than what it means here. A duplex means a single building with two homes inside of it. Sometimes they're split one floor. Sometimes they're side by side. A triplex is the same thing, but there's three. And then a quad is the same thing, but there's four. Now, these properties can be really good for investors and attractive, but generally they do not grow very well with equity. They'll still grow, but they will not grow like a single family home, and they're a little bit harder to sell because you're really only selling to investors. There's very, very few people who will buy a duplex, triplex, or quad as an individual family. Almost always you are selling to investors, which then makes it a smaller pool. So that said, the types of investors for those are a little fewer and far between. I wouldn't say to write those off completely. If you find great deals, you're already marketing it to investors. But it would be a different type of investor, somebody who is focused more on the cash flow than on equity growth. So I hope this is kind of helpful for you to understand some of the basics of the investing process. I'm going to make some more videos kind of detailing how investors think and the strategies that are used so that you can be better set up to wholesale well and think like an investor as you're doing this.